All right, guys. So I want to talk about the government shutdown and how it relates. Basically, I always look for my times to bet in the market. The most profitable times has been when everyone else is saying the opposite narrative or even lying about what's going on. And that's why I think right now is a great time to be buying AMC because basically, let's start with the government shutdown. So, Meet Kevin does a video last night about it, and he says that the Republicans are refusing Schumer's offer to just raise the debt ceiling, and it's not that clear and simple. So, basically, there's two bills. There's the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, which is supposed to also eliminate the debt ceiling up until December 2022. So they don't just, so basically the Democrats aren't just trying to raise the debt ceiling. They're trying to, with the infrastructure package, eliminate or suspend the debt ceiling and let there be no number until December 2022. That's never happened. The debt ceiling's never been suspended like that. Man, I got a lot of planes flying over me right now. And ultimately in the House, they passed the 3.5 trillion, but they didn't pass the 1.2 trillion. And the progressives in the House are saying we won't pass the 1.2 trillion dollar infrastructure bill for it to get passed in the Senate without having the Senate first pass the 3.5 trillion dollar bill. Now, that's basically all you need to know about the House, is that Nancy wants to get the 1.2 trillion approved, but she doesn't have the votes to get the 1.2 trillion approved because they're demanding that the progressives are demanding the 3.5 trillion be approved first through the Senate, and then they'll give everything in the House. And basically, the Senate has responded with this logic, saying, you guys have basically in 2020, when they started spending all the money for COVID, like those were Democrat written bills. And so the Republicans were like, got presented with this bill and they said absolutely not. And so it kept getting reworked and we finally get to a bill that the Republicans agree on. And in this time around, they got the 1.9 trillion back in March, I think it was. And the Republicans voted unanimously against that. There was nothing in there. Like, it's not just about how much money you're spending, but it's also about where you're spending the money. Because I believe that you could spend money in the right places over and over again and ignite an economy that was going to prosper. But instead, they're taking the money and putting it where they want to put it. And so the Senate says, we want nothing to do with this. We don't want our name on it. We don't want our fingerprints on it. And if you guys want to keep acting like this and keep just deciding how it's going to be, what's going to be in the bill, what laws are going to be changed, how the taxes are going to change, we want nothing to do with it. And so they can pass what's called a budget resolution where it only takes 51 votes and they don't need so basically anything in the Senate that goes to a vote is 51 votes except for closing for a vote. And so right now, Republicans, right now the Senate needs 60 votes in order to close the debate to have the vote on the $1.2 trillion infrastructure. And the Republicans aren't given the closure, or cloture is what they call it. And so basically, it's pushing the Democrats into a position where they would have to use the budget reconciliation to pass it. And now my only question is, and the only thing that like I could see coming and running all of this, is why couldn't they turn the 1.2 trillion plus the $3 trillion into one bill and then do a budget reconciliation and pass it all as one bill? Because they have the votes to do that. Unless Mnuchin is against it. So supposedly there's two Democrats, Mnuchin and I can't remember the girl's name, starts with an S. And so maybe they don't even have the votes to do that, and that's why they aren't putting it into one bill and just passing it all at once. And ultimately, what I see this is I see three different groups. I see the Republicans, I see the Democrat stronghold that existed for 100 years, and then I see the progressives, and I see them all wanting their own thing, and all of that separates the possibility of any bills being passed. And I don't know, I feel like it's a game of chicken right now, and I feel like both sides of the groups are willing to hold till the end and see what happens. And that's why I think the government will be shut down, and that's why I think the money won't be passed, and the budget won't be, or the debt ceiling won't be raised. And if the debt ceiling's not raised, it has to cause a collapse. Now the question is it like, so Yellen saying that they got money to go until October 18th? I don't know that I believe that. And if they do, I don't think that it's not gonna like, so if they got money till October 18th, paying interest, all these other things, I don't think they got enough money to control everything else. So basically, the Fed is pumping money into the treasuries. The banks don't have to worry about the treasuries. So the banks are taking their money, throwing them in assets, which is causing the assets to be elevated. But the second, I mean, today, tomorrow, when the debt ceiling doesn't get raised, it's got to change the way that they're spending the money right now today. And they should all I mean, I just can't see how it doesn't happen in a day. Like one day they're going to be like, okay, we're not getting more money, so now we got to be more conservative with our money. With what little money we have left, what are we going to do with that money? And I think that they won't be raising asset prices as soon as that happens. And if they're not raising asset prices, then asset prices will be dropping. And I believe that if you see what happens on the dark pool, AMC has the highest dark pool percentage trading out of any stock. And typically, like, regardless what's happening, volume goes, like, if you watch the volume, watch the stock price, and then you go and you look at the retail buying, it doesn't justify what AMC's doing right now. And so it reminds me a lot of February, where AMC dropped 68% and GME dropped 88%, and then they both skyrocketed. And here's the thing, it costs them money. Every time that they're manipulating the price of a stock they don't want to go up, they're burning money. They're buying low and they're selling at the price, and they just keep buying to sell to keep the, like, basically it's all about buy and sell on the order book for AMC. So if the price is, if there's no one buying and there's no one selling, the price would stay the same. But as we come in and buy, they got to push in the dark pools more orders to keep the price down and start moving it downwards. And so every time that there's not a buy and there's not a lot of people trying to buy, they'll hit the dark pool with a lot of sells, and then that drives the price down, even though it's not a lot of sales in comparison to how much has been bought and how much is actually out there left. And so I think that once they get the wake-up call that more money's not coming, that they'll stop using their money to attack asset prices and to inflate other asset prices. And it really bothers me how Meet Kevin said that Schumer put a bill out just to raise the debt ceiling, because that's not accurate. So the Republicans put out a bill saying, we'll raise the debt ceiling, we'll take care of the Afghans who are fighting in the war with us, and we'll take care of the states that have gone through the natural disasters, all the hurricanes and stuff. And so they wanted to help, like, emergency type situations and show that they're not totally just trying to be obstinate. And Schumer doesn't want anything part of that. What the Senate wants is they want to pass the $1.2 trillion, get the debt limit suspended, and then they want to use the budget reconciliation to pass the next bill, which they would have no ability, the Republicans would have no ability to stop. I don't know. When I see people lying about what's happening, when I'm watching what's actually being said at the Congress, and then I see these giant YouTubers coming on and talking about being bearish, and um, talking about things that didn't actually happen and creating a story that doesn't actually exist, it's a red flag to me that something big's about to happen. Because I mean, for all I don't like Meet Kevin for, I mean, he'll go on and he'll talk about how inflation's transitory and how he believes in the Fed and all that different stuff. But then when people actually call him out and they have positive, not positive, but damning evidence that inflation is here to stay, Meet Kevin laughs and says, "Oh, that's not good for Jerome Powell," but then he just washes it off and acts like it's not going to happen and act like stocks only go up and buy the dip. And I don't know, when I see stuff like that, it tells me that something's coming down. Absolutely not. This is not the Republicans' fault whatsoever. The Democrats could raise the debt ceiling right now. All they have to do is the budget reconciliation. The Democrats don't want to include any of the Republicans' ideas or objections or anything to any of these bills. And so why would a Republican vote for it? Why would they go against what the people in their counties want? As far as I'm concerned, the Republicans I know want it to be burned down. They want to see a real, true financial system that's not corrupted by fake money printing, and however the cards lay, they lay. And so I support the government shutdown. I think it's a necessary thing. I don't think they're doing it because they think it's necessary. I think that they're doing it because they just want what they want, and they're not going to take anything less. And all three sides feel that way. And when all three sides feel that way, it makes it to where there's not enough votes on any side of the floor to make anything happen. I just don't see anything happening, people. And so I would blame the Democrats more than anyone. I mean, I blame the Democrats for the last 20 years. I think they've just slowly been picking away at whatever resemblance of a free country we had left. And this is their final push. And I think pushing, do you guys understand in the $3.5 trillion package, they're trying to raise capital gains tax to 43%? That's the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life. The idea is you invest into society, into business, into the free market, and the free market is going to grow with you. And because you took the sacrifice to help the free market grow, you get lower taxes for holding for an X period of time. You start adding these taxes on to investing, and people will look how to make money beyond that or away from that. And so I don't see any way any of the Democrat proposed bills help anyone. And yeah, I think the only real question is do they have 51 Democrats, and can they combine both bills into one bill and pass it through budget reconciliation? And if the answer is no to that for some reason, we're getting a government shutdown. And I mean, if you look at the inflation, so the same thing they did with COVID, they changed the rules of how to count COVID, and that's why the COVID numbers came back higher than what the flu numbers were or any other airborne disease. And it's not because COVID was actually more deadly, it's because they changed the standards of the government to count the numbers in order to get a higher number. And so they've done the same thing with inflation. The rules for counting inflation have been degraded as time has gone on over the years, and when inflation hits this time and it's telling us 5.6%, 5.3%, 5%, it's all much, much higher than that. Bill, it's not negotiable. They want to remove, the Republicans are saying these bills are not negotiable because you got to take out X, Y, and Z, and they're saying no. The Republicans aren't trying to add money for their own things. The Republicans are saying, no, we can't add these laws that you're adding into this spending bill. It's not just a spending bill. It's a 2,500 packet of rules, laws, taxes, In order for these bills to be rewritten, it takes a exorbitant amount of time. It's not going to happen. And so even the budget reconciliation, they say that would take 3 weeks to actually go through the process of budget reconciliation. And the real problem why they don't want to raise the debt ceiling with budget reconciliation is because they'd have to choose a number. And whatever number they choose, and they have to create like a whole mathematical outframe for it, whatever number they choose for the budget ceiling, it's the last one they're going to get. I don't know how long until they get another budget reconciliation, but I'd assume at least a year. And so they're not comfortable putting a number on what they're willing to spend. And I think that's where we really sit. And then if they did get this, things would go inflation, everything gets that much worse. And then they're going to like say, oh, Republicans, you got to let us spend more money, pass more bills, because things only got worse. And money's the only thing that can solve the problem. I understand in the past that things have been negotiated, but if you don't look, like you got to look at what happened back in March when they passed the 1.9 trillion. Republicans did not get one thing that they wanted, and they opposed almost everything of how that bill was spent because it was titled as a COVID package, but it wasn't actually going to anything COVID. It wasn't going to anything that stimulate the economy. It's just the Democrats paying their people more money and creating all these little slush funds. So when the shit hits the fan, at least they still got their billions locked up in all these little places. And so this is no different. The Democrats are saying these are the bills. These are the only things we're willing to vote on. You have to vote on it because our country needs money right now and we need to raise the debt ceiling. And so they think that they can bully the Republicans into voting for something that they absolutely don't want in any way, shape, or form in order so that they can come back with the budget reconciliation and hit the 3.5 trillion without their approval. And I just say none of it's going to happen. I don't think one damn thing's going to pass in the next couple weeks. And I think it's going to cause a lot of problems. And I think that AMC is going to be the greatest ROI machine out of all the assets out there. I think that other assets will do well, as I think most assets will go to almost nothing and most of them will go bankrupt. It's just the way I see it. Budgets are negotiated up until the point that the majority says these are non-negotiable budgets. Vote or nothing. The Democrats are saying it's this or nothing. They're not saying, okay, let's do X, Y, and Z and figure out the rest later. Because the Republicans already offered a proposal saying, let's raise the debt ceiling, let's take care of these 3 things, and that's it. But then that would leave the Democrats to only be able to use the budget reconciliation on the infrastructure package, which doesn't do the job for them. They aren't happy with just the infrastructure package. And so the negotiation from the Democrat side is all or nothing, and the response from the Republican side is absolutely nothing. Oh, man. What up, people? I think inflation's going to be worse and worse every month from here on out. Oh, man. I don't know. I'm just excited. I just want it to all go down already. I'm still confident in those penny contracts. I'm still confident in those penny contracts, but don't blow it all on the next 3 days. Save some for next week. Save some for the week after that. But I don't think that we make it to the October 18th. If they say they got enough money to last October 18th, it's going to last less than that. It's not going to last as long as they projected. Does that mean it ends tomorrow and they run out of money tomorrow? Probably not. But October 1st, maybe. October 3rd, 4th, 5th, maybe. I think a lot of pain's about to come to this country. And I'm interested to see how it all shakes out. When they run out of money, they can no longer, the banks, so when they run out of money, the banks are going to have to be forced to close their positions in the assets. And so all these overinflated assets, they're going to get rocked. There's no more pumping. There's no more quantitative easing raising these stock prices. Every time that retail sells in a stock, if they don't want that stock to go down, they come in and they buy that stock. So if you're looking at AMC options, and you're looking to buy every Friday with a small percent. So go buy January 2022 options with all your money at the deepest strike. Every single week, come back and sell a contract or two and throw that into the weekly to expire options on AMC. So like tomorrow, like go to the net, or probably wait till Friday. If you already got some for this Friday, then go to the next Friday and look at the cheapest strike possible. I wouldn't be worried about what strike it's going to go to, because I think AMC is going to $2,000 in the drop of a hat. A drop of a hat. And then when it goes to $2,000, I think it'll eventually go higher than that. But I think that, so with the options, if you just go every Friday, when you're getting in before the next Friday option, or your Friday options expire, you're looking at the next Friday. I'm just looking to get as much contracts as possible rather than worrying about the strike. And so whatever strike is the cheapest, but if you got a $60 strike at $2 a contract and a $90 strike at $2 a contract, you should be buying the $60 strikes, not the 90, just because it's free money. It's the same, like, if it goes up and hits that number, then you're going to make more in the 60 than you would the 90. So there's no reason to pay more for a strike when it's the same price as a lower strike. But when I'm doing this YOLO type thing, I'm looking for the cheapest possible strikes just because I want to get the maximum number of contracts. I don't know, I just find it really weird that the way that everybody's painting it, and the only people I hear telling the truth of what's actually going on is actual Congress. And it just doesn't seem like most people are actually listening to Congress because they've given up on Congress. But I still like to listen because, I mean, as much as I dislike Republicans and how weak and futile their efforts have seemed over the last decades since I've started watching, I still think that what they say tends to be more towards the guise of freedom. And I personally think that they just don't, like, it's kind of like the COVID with Trump. Trump didn't want to lock down. Trump was trying to tell everyone it's just the flu. It's just the flu. Like, get out of here with this nonsense. And then everybody else around the world made it such a big deal that Trump was scared of what he would look like if he didn't do it and be like accused or charged as a murderer with all this fake data and all this stuff. And so whether Trump was in on it or not, whether this is a giant game or not, if it is a game and they're both in on it, then they're both in on it to crash the system. Because what happened when things got hard with COVID? We lost our rights. Government got way more power. Like, things we thought would never be possible, forced vaccines to work, all this other stuff, we would have thought was impossible 5 years ago. And because of COVID, because of the danger, they're now trying to justify all this nonsense. But if you, like, now that, like, I just don't feel like COVID's a serious threat anymore. I don't think anyone's taking it serious. And so now that, like, people are kind of done with the story, I feel like new pain has to come. And so new pain is a broken dollar, is shelves depleted, food scarce, money scarce, businesses going out of business. And I don't necessarily think it's going to lead to a revolution. I think the revolution is communities coming together, and the revolution is going by local representatives and local laws and really just saying fuck the Fed. And I think the Fed will, like, when the pain hits, I think they're gonna try to do as much as they can to act like they're trying to make sure that energy stays on, cellular service, internet stays on, really the basics. And then from there, they're gonna try to ration out the food or something weird. But that's only gonna be a temporary thing. If all that comes, I wouldn't expect it to last too long. Just because we have everything we need in order to be a productive society, but people are fed up with a corrupt society. And so I think people have basically given up on the system until the system breaks and we get a new opportunity. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I do know that violence is never going to be the answer. The Bible clearly states that in the end times, those who fight by the sword will die by the sword. And so there will be a solution outside of fighting to your death. But I don't know what that answer is yet. I'm waiting for chess pieces to move right now. Right now we're kind of in a stalemate situation where we just wait to see what happens. But what I see happening is a market crash. And I see companies that are actually worth the value that they're at and nobody's buying them will probably become worth more value because they're prepared to keep things running, while the things that are overinflated are going to crash into a tiny, tiny little bankruptcy. And then AMC is like the one outlier that I see. And so AMC, the only stock in the whole world owned by retail. I don't care if you're talking about crypto, stock, anything, commodity, currency. It's the only thing outright owned by retail. And because of that, I don't know, the only thing I always vote for the people. I always go with the people. I never fight against the people. The people aren't wrong. The people are never wrong. When the people come together and they fight for something, and they fight against the man, they fight against corruption, they always win. It's the history of civilization. From 2,000 years ago all the way to today. GME scares me. I don't trust GME. Could I see GME having a squeeze less effective than AMC but still squeeze? Possibly. I don't really know. But GME scares me. The Reddit stuff, I just don't like what I read about the GME commentators. I don't like that GME is not owned by retail. I don't believe I don't believe in counterfeit shares whatsoever. I think that they're recycling the shares they have to do whatever they need to do. When I watch GME stock price, I see it hold at the same price for 5-10 seconds. I see no trades come in for 5-10 seconds, and then a trade comes in and the price barely moves. It seems like they're putting very little effort into controlling the GME stock price, while AMC is always moving. If you count the dollar price of a stock versus the number of shares traded, AMC has the most volume out of any stock trading on the market day after day after day after day. And if you look at the price, it moves up and down, up and down, up and down. And there's always orders coming in. 3 orders for every second that passes. And so I see a lot more potential in AMC than GME. And for that, because the people own AMC and they don't own GME, I'm just never going to push GME. If you have GME and you don't have AMC, I'm scared for you. I've recommended for a long time now, it's time to sell your GME and buy AMC. I just don't know how you're going to compare a diamond-handed movement when one owns the stock and the other one doesn't. And I think it's as simple as that for me. And it seems like if Ryan Cohen was going to introduce some great plan to make GME beyond just gaming, they would have done it before all of this perfect storm came together. I do think so. I think we're in a falling apart time, people. I think we are in a time where all sides are opposing each other, and all sides says, well, if you want pain, then let's bring the pain. We're going to say it's your fault, and the other side saying we're going to say it's your fault, and a little bit of pain is going to have to come through, and people are going to have to wake up to see that you can't just print money into non-existence. You can't just throw in free money for everybody, and yeah, something exciting is going to happen. Now, I actually don't even believe that you can't just throw in free money for everybody, but if you do it, you got to have a plan behind it, and you can't just give them money, but you got to create a system that's designed to give away money. And you got to give a system that still rewards the people that don't want to just take, but that want to produce. And so I think eventually society gets there. I mean, I'm a big believer in the Bible, and the Bible talks about everybody coming together, a new Zion being built, and in this Zion showing the way, and the rest of the world becoming Zion like the Zion of like the actual Zion. So the rest of the world says, oh, look what they're doing. Let's copy that. And I don't know, in that world, it's all about building human potential. Do some people want to abuse the system, take free food and free money and never live to anything? Sure. Do most people want to do that? I don't think so. I think most people want to bring value, but there is no, like in this world, in this economy, like if you have the most value to bring to people, if you're the most talented, I don't think that guarantees you a successful career. And that if you're outspoken, if that you're going to push against the machine, that they will ensure that you do not get a platform to do what you need to do. So what I mean by that is anyone with $50 million or more could go break the stock market today. They could go buy all the shares of a stock and before that throw a little money in the options and completely drive this stock to infinity and cash out the options for billions of dollars right outside and taking that right from the market. From the market makers. The market makers will have to sell their shares to afford these options, and it would cause just a total collapse. So the fact that it takes so little money to do this convinces me anyone with money is kind of on the inside of things, and they like the way things are, and they like being rich, and they like having their power, and they know if they just crashed everything, then like unless they're prepared to try to become the king, like it ain't gonna work out well for them. That's why they don't do it. And yeah, I don't know, people. I'm feeling pretty bullish though. A couple more days and we find out what happens with the government shutdown. I think it's getting shut down. Make your bets. There's one thing that I did see in the market. So if you want to bet on something, like bet on the market crashing, not just on AMC going up, there is, look on the NDX, go to the October AM option. There's one AM expiration option in October. And if you scroll up or scroll to the puts, you'll see a $7,000 strike on the puts. And it's like 10 cents a contract right now. And so this 10 cents a contract, if you buy one of those contracts and the NASDAQ goes to zero, your 10 cents or $10 after the 100X would be worth $700,000 if the NASDAQ went to zero. And so I don't like, if you're talking about the ultimate collapse of a society and of the market, as far as a put goes, I haven't seen anything in the put market that pays more than that one. And it looks specially priced. So go take a look at that if you want to buy some puts also to go with this. Otherwise, trust AMC. It's the people's voice. It's the only place where people came together and won the war. There is a war. And buying all the stock of one stock is all you got to do to win it. I think AMC benefits with the government shutdown. I don't think GME does. I mean, GME might have a small benefit and might have a small squeeze, but AMC will have a large squeeze because the people aren't leaving. The people know what happened to them, and unfortunately, like GME, I don't know that the people are still there. I think the people cashed out long ago. If you just look at how GME has moved since February, it seems like it just lost all of its support. And AMC took over after that, and to this day, AMC has not had a true win. AMC, every time AMC had a squeeze, it got shut down by insider selling. And that tells me the squeeze is yet to come. The squeeze will squeeze when it goes up, and it doesn't come down until retail sells, not when CEO sells, or CFOs and all the other management people. Joey Z, GME might own the float of GME. So GME retail might own the float of GME, but that doesn't mean they own the outstanding shares. They don't own 51% of outstanding shares. AMC owns over 51% of all shares, not just the float. I don't like separating things from the float versus insiders. I don't trust Ryan Cohen. If the government tells him he got to sell, I believe he will sell. I truly believe this, people. AMC CEO is proof of that to me. He goes on talking about how His job is to protect shareholders and all this other stuff. And then he comes on in times like now when he's selling all of his shares saying it's not his job to worry about the shareholders' price and that his job is to worry about the business of AMC. It's like, no, 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 no. That's not how it works. And so I kind of hope that AMC turns into a thing where it becomes a standing pinnacle of the people's voice and the people's money. So let's say all the AMCers buy 100% of all the shares. It goes to $1 trillion market cap. From there, the AMCers get to, like, they'll own all the shares, most of the shares, a majority of the shares, and they'll get a vote on their own CEO. They'll get a vote on a 5% dilution and the business plan behind this CEO, and just completely change what AMC is about. Fuck movie theaters. Like, all these public companies, they could be banks, they could be anything they want to be, and just because they've been movie theaters this far doesn't mean that they can't be everything else tomorrow. And so I think the people just need to buy it, own it, prove that they're there and they're not leaving, and then from there they can create a plan of what they actually want to utilize the asset for. And I believe it will be a positive thing, and I trust AMC. I trust it. Alright, guys. Don't trust the spooks. Anyone on YouTube telling you it's a bad time to buy? Anyone on YouTube telling you fake news about what's happening in the government? Don't trust the spooks. They're pushing a firm and all these other things. They're saying don't buy options. Man, it's usually like, if you go back and you look at the May squeeze, so like a week before it squeezed, Trey starts pushing options that are a month out. Why did he do that? Because he didn't want people buying options that were a week out. Yeah. We'll see. Government shutdown. Here we go.